Hi, welcome to Loft 801. My name is Diego, and today I'm talking about Ash. Ash is a sci-fi cosmic horror film directed by Steven Ellison, also known as Flying Lotus, and was released on March 21st, 2025. I won't give any spoilers on this review, but the premise of this movie revolves around an astronaut waking up on a distant planet to find the entire crew of her space station has been killed. She has no memory of herself or the situation except for the occasional quick nightmarish flashbacks of her partners and their mission. As she tries to remember what happened, a crew member named Brion arrives, claiming her name is Riya and that he received her distress signal. With their oxygen running out, Riya refuses to leave until she investigates and remembers what happened to her and her team. I absolutely love the premise of this movie. It's like a mix of Total Recall, Alien, and John Carpenter's The Thing. This is the kind of sci-fi movie that I wish Mickey 17 had been. I love the mystery element of this film. I loved how little things like scissors and medicine patches would give Riya horrific flashbacks. No joke, these flashbacks were gruesome and jump scared me multiple times. I'm not normally a fan of jump scares, but they worked really well in this movie. I think a big part of why the jump scares worked so well is the sound design and score. Whoever was working on the score deserves a bonus because I was hooked with every scene. At first I felt a little overwhelmed, but once I adjusted, I truly appreciated the music and sound design. The other thing that made the flashbacks scary for me was the imagery. Several of the crewmates were gruesomely killed with their faces being smashed to pieces. When Riya pictures these crewmates in her flashbacks, it's jarring seeing the frames of them as normal people versus the frames of them dead versus the frames of them mutated into grotesque images. I think this movie perfectly captured the amnesia mystery sci-fi horror vibe. Now, this movie isn't perfect. There are two things that I think could have been improved. First, the acting. Eizagonzalez is largely great as Riya, but in some moments I don't think she's given enough direction. Her acting feels a little dry and emotionless, especially during her conversations with Aaronpaul's Brion. I loved Eiza in the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, and I loved her here because she looked and felt like a sci-fi video game character. But she did have some room for improvement. I don't have any complaints about Aaronpaul's acting, but the chemistry between the two leads wasn't quite there. However, I'm willing to forgive some of the stiff acting moments because this movie felt like it was made with a low budget. I looked online, and while I couldn't find the production cost, Amazon Prime Video bought the distribution rights for $10 million. I'm speculating here, but that seems like a pretty low number, especially considering that they bought the rights for Lord of the Rings for over $1 billion. This is not a complaint, it's just an observation. What makes this movie feel low budget at times is the lighting and the framing. The station is running on emergency lights, so there is a lot of red and blue lighting. Maybe I'm a little crazy, but I feel like the lighting is a little overdone in some of the scenes. Maybe this movie could have used some After Effects magic touch-ups to add more glare and flare like a video game. I'm not sure. Despite some of the low budget feeling moments, I was completely blown away by the transitions in this movie. Every scene flowed very seamlessly. Riya would be standing on one side of the screen and fade away into the next scene without skipping a beat or looking cheesy. The editing for this movie is absolutely phenomenal. Not just that, but the CGI and special effects also look amazing. This movie takes place on another planet and it genuinely feels otherworldly. There's a magical, mystical, uncanny, and extraterrestrial vibe to everything and it sucks you in. The cherry on top is the practical effects. There's a moment in the movie where you can tell it's clearly inspired by The Thing and the practicality is impressive. So again, despite my observation that this movie felt like it had a low budget, this movie does a lot to overcome that. The second thing this movie could have improved on was the pacing and in some slight ways the direction. There were some scenes that lingered a little longer than they should have. These were largely scenes where Riya was the focus and she was just sitting in her thoughts. I appreciate this movie's short runtime of 1 hour and 35 minutes, but I still think these scenes could have been a little bit tighter. However, on that note, while I like the climax, I feel like I didn't have enough time to appreciate it. I know that's a little contradictory to what I just said. This could be a me thing, but I feel like a lot of the time was dedicated to revealing what happened to the crew and not enough time was put into the climax, which almost lessened the stakes. Actually, I don't want to go as far as saying that, but I do think some little details could have been tweaked or rearranged to make the climax hit harder. Either way, my feelings toward this movie are very, very positive, especially since I believe there's a shortage of cosmic horror sci-fi films. One final fun fact is that this movie began production in 2022. The main actors were actually supposed to be Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Tessa Thompson, but due to scheduling issues, likely from COVID, they were replaced in March of 2023 with Aaronpaul and eizagonzalez. I like the original casting, but the more I think about it, I'm very glad that Paul and Eiza were the ones cast in this movie. Ash is a fantastic addition to the cosmic horror genre, delivering a gripping amnesiac mystery, haunting moments, and an immersive atmosphere. While the film has a few shortcomings such as occasional stiff acting, minor pacing issues, and a low-budget feel in certain scenes, its strengths far outweigh its flaws. The seamless editing, masterful sound design, and incredible practical effects made this a memorable movie for me. This movie feels like a video game through a cinematic lens. If you're a fan of Deadspace or films like Alien or The Thing, I would recommend checking this movie out. In fact, whether you're a fan or not, I would still recommend checking this movie out. I desperately wish we had more sci-fi horror films like this, so please go out and support this film. Thank you for listening to my review of Ash. If you enjoyed the content, leave a like and hit subscribe. If you did not enjoy the content, thank you for sticking around. As always, I would love to read what you have to say, so leave a comment and let me know what you're thinking. Also, if there's something you want to see reviewed, don't forget to let me know and I will do my best to get to it. Lastly, if you want to see some more from me, then you can check out my vlogs linked up above or my podcast Good Friends. Again, thank you for watching. My name is Diego and I will see you next time.